So hello everyone and welcome to the First Step page. I hope everybody is doing well. This is a very exciting interview. We've had two so far. Our first one was with Sharna, who had a First Step feature, and she spoke a lot about self-love and her mental resilience journey along with her physical activity journey. We had Helen, who spoke about her journey, her physical activity journey with PCOS. And today I have my cousin Joy, who also had a feature. She's one of the early persons who would have submitted a feature on the First Step page. And I have my sister Zoe. So it really is a fam jam session today, and we're super excited about it. So actually, Joy, maybe you can give just a little bit of an intro. Zoe, you can do it too, but Joy was the feature, so I'll let Joy go first. Just, what do we need to know about Joy?
Well, it's me, your girl, Joy. I'm living in Antigua, like I said before, and I really got into fitness probably about 2 or 3 years ago. And I'm going to be honest, I've had a bit of a struggle with due to COVID and losing motivation and also having a knee injury which has slowed me down. But still trying to push through, and now I'm back in the gym trying to build back up while my knee is healing so that I can get back to where I said I was in the future.
Listen, girl, that's why we call it a journey. It is a whole journey. And it's so interesting, like everyone else, both Sharna, Helen, some other people that I've spoken to, we've all had those ups and downs, especially during COVID. And yeah. So if you want to introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Zoe. I'm currently in Canada and not in Antigua where I am from, but that is okay. We will push through. I really started to get into fitness maybe about a year and a bit ago, year and a half ago. I used to really, really hate exercising. And I think a lot of it was changing my mindset of why I was exercising, which made me start to enjoy it. COVID has kind of been a bit of a roller coaster of being like very fit to not so much of it and then going up. But that's life, and it's a journey, as my sister Danielle said, and I'm just happy to be here.
So one of the things that Joy really spoke about in her feature was body image. So I'm actually going to read a quote from her write-up. It says, "For a lot of my life, I was on the thicker, chubbier side of life, and it took a really long time for me to get over feeling self-conscious about it. Growing up in the Caribbean, it is very normal for persons to comment on your weight in a way that is unkind." And I've had a lot of, so that's her quote. And I think this resonates a lot with the three of us who are here. And I've had lots of conversations over the last couple of weeks with people about this very same thing, whether it was growing up in the Caribbean and having to deal with body image issues, or even now in the time of COVID when we're all dealing with all sorts of things. So let's just start, peeps. So we're just going to have a discussion about some of those core things that were in Joy's quote about body image. So Zoe and Joy, when you hear that quote, when you think of growing up in the Caribbean and body image, what are some, like, let's talk about the growing up part. What are some things that immediately come to mind?
Well, as a child, okay, so one of the things that I remember from my childhood with thinking about weight was just back to primary school when we used to wear shorts and t-shirts for PE, physical education. And if I was sitting down next to the boys, like, and you sit down, your thigh spreads because that's just what your body does. And like some of the little boys would make a comment about that, and I used to kind of actually try and sit upright uncomfortably so that my thigh didn't spread. And it's kind of things like that. I mean, everybody knows that children are a special breed in terms of honesty. So I don't look back and blame him or her for making comments, but it's just little things like that as a child, and you don't really at that point you don't understand how your body works. It's like you're either fat or you're thin, and it's almost like the worst thing to be fat, especially when you're not really secure in how you look, and as a child, that's difficult. So that's one of the first things that I think about as a child growing up in the Caribbean. Zoe.
Yeah. Okay. Thinking I'm gonna kind of, my mind is always a little, but Joy made me think about how because I'm 5'10", I'm a tall girl if you know me. I feel like I've always been bigger than all of my friends have in height and in size, and that's always been a bit of I think that's always been difficult for me. Not anymore, we're great, we're living, but growing up through high school and primary school, always taller than boys, always the thigh thing is very real. I still, and it's something that's so ingrained that even though I'm comfortable with my body, like even I still do it now. Like you just think, I'm like, oh, my thigh is bigger than so-and-so's thigh. And that's a problem. I just think in the Caribbean, not just the Caribbean, but worldwide, where I think Black women especially were taught that we have to meet this very impossible standard of having, being very thin, snatch waist, big booty, big boobs, legs have to be like thick but toned, your bottom has to be thick but toned, and everything. It's not possible for people to reach these standards. And I think we're all struggling, or like we've struggled with that at some point of just not reaching it, but it's not possible for most people. So that just kind of is what resonates with me a bit, is like finding peace with knowing that this is just how my body looks, and I'm like, I feel, and just feeling good with where you're at any size in your journey.
Yeah. And okay, so what I've heard from Joy is kind of like, and both Joy and Zoe, there are just these expectations of what our bodies should look like. And it's interesting that even children are commenting, like at that very young age, about, or have comments about what Joy's thighs should and should not look like. Where did that come from? So you have to think about those things as well. Like, where did that sense of, or where did that expectation of what is normal or what is ideal come from?
Right.
Another, sorry, Joy.
What I also wanted to say was that even from adults, when you're hearing those kinds of comments as a child, and when I'm saying child, I'm thinking maybe early teens, from like the age of 10 as well, you're hearing comments like, oh, you're looking fat, and okay, who are you trying to help? Like, why are you saying this, because I think that there's nothing wrong with teaching children and early teenagers about, their body and their weight, but I think you need to be helpful with it. And I see a very big lack of that, because even in even I think about PE as a child, yeah, you had other children who were heavier, taller, not as fit or thin or able as others. And from what I recall, the classes were not structured in a way that taught you to deal with what you had. It's like, well, if you can't run fast, we're not going to put you to run, that kind of way. And then it makes you feel even more inadequate or even worse about where you fall, like on the spectrum. So that was, another point about the roughness of childhood.
No, it's true. Sorry.
Yeah. I know, I just agree with Joy. I think back to PE, and I just think about how, like, everyone, and I think, I don't know if equality is really the best thing to do in PE, because you're all just taught to do this, and if you can't do it, too bad. Like if you can't run, like you're on, like you just get shamed for it. I think if you can't do certain things, instead of looking for what other people are good at in like that realm, it's just like if you can't do, and a lot of the times it's limited for a lot of reasons. But I think if you can't do it, then it's just not encouraging to people who have all different abilities, shapes, sizes, like, yeah.
Going off of Joy's point on adults not being very positive. And I think people would resonate with different things. Like, I'm bringing up big boned.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Big boned squad.
That upsets me.
So Joy, you would have just, mentioned adults not necessarily creating the most positive environment when talking about weight. Like, I think all of us, the three of us, have had adults randomly as children, like let's continue to talk about children, us as children, come up to us and say, "Oh, but you put on weight." One of the favorite ones. So as most of you know, and I've spoken about it on my She Moves page, like I was quite overweight when I was younger, and which was as a result of a combination of things. But one of the big things that I got was, "Oh, but she's big boned."
But is it bad that I genuinely think I'm big boned?
No, but like, it's very interesting because they'll say she's like refer to big boned as an excuse.
Yes. Yeah.
I also,
and it used to kind of almost be better that you were big boned because that justified, it gave it an excuse. It justified why you were the size that you were, and
it's just like, let kids live a bit, like you're a kid. And it's just, I think at home I just don't see the need to comment on people's weight, period.
full stop.
Period. And I think it's very interesting because I know, like, when I've been away for school, like in boarding school when I was here, I was like 7, like up until now, people are like, "Oh, you lost weight, man. Don't lose any more though." I come back, "Oh, you gained weight." "Oh, come back. Oh, you lost." And it's literally like, it's such your mind is just going like this because it's like, okay, I can't get too much small, but I can't get bigger, but I can't get and it's like, then you feel a need to maintain a certain look when you feel like you've reached this look that's aesthetically pleasing. It's impossible.
I recall a friend of mine, she lost weight, she did, and then you kind of think that, oh, that's what you're supposed to do because society wants you to lose weight, but then people turned around and were saying, "Oh, but you look so much better with the little weights on," and it's like, why can't you just let people be what they are?
And so I think there are a couple of things. I think there's one, it's that accepting, and which we've kind of alluded to throughout. It's like accepting that there are different people look different. You're not gonna get, everybody's shapes are different. And 2, people's weight fluctuation happens for a variety of reasons, and you have no idea what's happening in people's lives.
Right.
So, yeah, but it's interesting. I think for us who are now grown women who still can think about those instances when we were called fat, when we were called big bone, when we were called, or when people had to comment on our weight from the time we're like over 10, 15 years ago. Like, I don't think adults or other children realize the long-term effects of that.
Yeah. It's true.
Yeah. But I really wonder why, like, where does it come from to, like, what, like, why are these comments made? Like, is it, like, I don't even think it's necessarily malicious, not to excuse it. I don't think it's always a malicious thing. So I'm just thinking, I don't have the answer to that. But I'm just thinking, why has it become so commonplace to just comment on a body that's not yours? Period. Like, and we've just rolled with it because clearly people aren't comfortable with me walking into the pharmacy and someone saying, oh no, you haven't grown like this, you've grown like this. I said, but Miss Pharmacist, this is not a yes, in Woods Pharmacy. and mom was like, oh, thank you, she's gonna go home and cry.
I remember hearing that story.
Yeah, but it's just like, well, why, how has this become, I don't know if any of y'all have the answer or an idea, but because it's not as commonplace to do those things in other parts of the world. Like within North America, it's not, in more insidious ways, I think. Like, I think it's a little more hidden and a little more, but like racism in Canada. But I just think, yeah, sorry, I'm rambling, but that's another topic, another day.
Valid point. Joy, you seem like you have a thought.
I'm thinking because, okay, I know that people, so I haven't done any research on this, so I don't know that it is true. But I know that people have tried to tie it back to Africa, saying that, oh, in Africa, you know, when you have weight on you, that speaks to, you know, the fact that you are wealthy. You can obviously afford to eat well, to look like that kind of thing. So people have tried to tie it into that, but if that was the original intention, I feel like it's been lost.
Completely.
But I feel as though sometimes people just absolutely feel the need to make a comment on something. And if we step away, I mean, it goes beyond body positivity in the sense that you might say to somebody, oh, you look tired, oh, you didn't sleep last night. And the thing about it is, I don't think that these things are meant with ill will, but people don't consider how these things would make you feel. And it comes down to, oh, you have to be thick-skinned, oh, you mustn't take these things to heart. But again, Dani, it's like you said, we are, you know, big young adults. And you're hearing these kinds of comments for 20-something years, and it's like, don't you think about the fact that this obviously makes people feel away? Mm-hmm. Do you think about how it feels to be hearing those kinds of comments about how you look for just 20-something years? And I mean, you can be as thick-skinned as anything. When you're just hearing this kind of negativity constantly, it's not going to just wash off your back kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But I wonder the same thing myself. Like, why do you feel the need to comment on it? If you could see it, why couldn't I see it? Mm-hmm. You know?
And so, okay, so far we've kind of looked at, because this is just a very initial conversation, but we've looked at, you know, very quick thoughts on body image, about growing up in the Caribbean, things that we've heard, kind of us questioning why people feel the need to comment on weight. And so I wonder, knowing what we know, and just from our personal experience, what are some things that you would appreciate in your friend groups, in your workspaces, just to create more of a positive environment around body image? What do you guys think?
I have friends who are smaller than I am, which is perfectly fine. We're all beautiful in our own shape. But I think being cognizant of where, like, of your body, and I think that's not like talking about body, like dysmorphia or body dysphoria, any of that, but it's just when people will, my small friends will be like, I feel fat, I'm fat, and I'm like, you're not. And I saw this very interesting post that was like, I feel fat, and it's like, no, you are feeling hopeless. No, you're feeling tired, know you're feeling unmotivated, know you're not unmotivated, but things like that. Like there's something else happening psychologically that is manifesting in a physical way about how you're feeling about your physical self. Mm-hmm. So I think like switching the discourse of like how we talk about our bodies within our own friend groups is really important. Not necessarily like about each other, but even about yourself to your friends and to your family, I think is really important. And just like, yeah, just being cognizant of like what talking about body image can also do for other people. Not to say you can't go to your friends with things, like if you're, but like being mindful of language. And I just say, don't comment on people's bodies, period. Tell your friend they look good and move on. Don't tell.
Okay, so from Zoe, we have just be mindful of how you're entering conversations. Be mindful of your body. Be mindful of the language that you're using. And I think that's really important. And I think just also how you're feeling, because to your point, I think that's great. Like, what am I actually feeling? I'm saying I feel fat, but what am I actually?
Fat is not a feeling.
Yeah.
Like, I think I saw someone post about that. I think that's really stuck with me for like a year or so since I've seen that. It's like, no, you don't feel fat.
Yeah.
It's not a thing.
Yeah. Joy, what do you think? I know you have like 2 words.
Well, so I haven't really thought about how to address that in my spaces yet, because I'm in spaces that challenge me beyond telling them very basic things. Again, well, the first thing that I would say is mind your business. I mean, what's going on with you before you're talking about what's going on with somebody else. But it is also the way that you will talk about yourself, because there have been situations where I have heard people saying, well, me fat, so me can say what I want. And, you know, I just don't think that's the way to go. Because it's like we said earlier, you don't know the reasons why people's weight why someone's weight is the way it is. You don't know why their weight is fluctuating. And honestly, you don't know the battles that people are fighting with themselves for their own image. I mean, there have been times when I am like really killing myself to try and lose some weight, and somebody might say to me, oh, you're looking like you put on weight. And then to me, that's like, oh, because I know for myself that I've been doing more than normal to lose some weight. And I would just encourage people to be more mindful of their words. And I try to, when I'm speaking to people about issues that I think are like this, that I don't think that they've thought it through, I say to them, but I try to put them in the situation and say, okay, but if it was you, you know that you wouldn't appreciate X, Y, Z. And I don't really know if that is enough, because I think that it is really ingrained in us as a society to just make comments. But I try to do that a lot, to make it more personal for them, so that you realize, okay, I'm dealing with a person who has feelings just like me, and I wouldn't appreciate it.
Mm-hmm. Just to add to that, Joy, and what both you and Zoe talked about. So, as everyone, well, as some people I know, I'm very, very passionate about children. And we've kind of touched on the long-term effects of some things that people say and how that might affect a child like us, thinking about this 10 years later. But how you speak about yourself. So for parents, again, just kind of be mindful of how you're referring to your body, right? And with your child around, and you questioning things about your body, they're going to start thinking things too. So it's really about creating this space that you appreciate what your body looks like. appreciate your body for what it can do, and it can do so many things, as all of us know. And even Joy, you've spoken to that on your physical activity journey, taking it back to physical activity. And so I think that's really, really important. And another thing that I was thinking is, how about we comment on the actual person too when we want to give compliments to people? So it doesn't always have to be, I think, so that goes back to your point of us just immediately commenting on what someone looks like. But if you know that person well enough, especially if it's someone like your child or like your friend or like your sister, actually commenting about the qualities of the person too.
Those always mean much more to you. I was just saying, if you want to comment on someone's appearance, but like tell them they look great. But I always find when like compliments that are more personal about me and not my physical appearance, always like they just sit with you a little different, you know? You just feel a little better about yourself.
It's just, again, I think we could tie in that self-love piece as well, is when you start to feel a bit more comfortable with your body.
At all stages and phases, which I'm learning to do a bit more.
I know all of us are talking, but I think we all, oh no, I'll talk for myself, but I think it is 100% like this up and down journey with our bodies, but just especially in the space of physical activity, appreciating all the things that our bodies can do, and just wanting to be the healthiest versions of ourselves. And that healthy version can look so different across the board, because all of our bodies are different. There's no one healthy body type.
And I think thinking of health like in a holistic way as well, because it's like okay, healthy for like, there are people who are very physically healthy but maybe not mentally, for a number of reasons. But like, I think if you're very preoccupied with it, it's a journey with like your body image and all of that, you're not like feeling great up here.
No, totally. And I think that's something that's come out in all of our interviews so far, is just this idea of holistic health. Like, although the page is focused on people's physical activity journeys, in no one's feature are they just talking about how they've been active. It's been all these environmental additional things happening in their lives where physical activity was a part, but definitely not the whole thing. So definitely touched on holistic health as well. Any final thoughts, peeps? I think we've had a pretty, like, it was a short but really solid convo. A start of something that I think, like, conversations that we need to continue to have, especially in the context of the Caribbean.
Yes.
Joy,
your final words.
Well, my thing would just be, I think that we really need to focus on making constructive comments. So in talking, like I said, there's no problem with talking about, someone's weight. If you have noticed that someone has gained weight and you are genuinely concerned, I think that there's just a more constructive approach to take, other than, wow, you put on weight, wow, you're fat. And I just want people to, while you don't have to feel the need to make a comment, I mean, it's also not the business that pays you, so you need to mind that. But I just think that we need to be more constructive with our weight, expressing our concerns of weight to one
another. Agreed, Joy. So, any final thoughts?
I think I've said what I've had to say. Be kind to each other, be kind to your own bodies. It's a journey, man. Just like take day by day. Every day I'm just like, be kind to your body today. Like, it's doing great things for you. Look how far you've come with it. Like, this is your home at the end of the day. And I think other people need to think about themselves that way if you don't already, and think about other people and their bodies that way. Like, that's their home that they have forever. So
I love it. Okay, peeps.
Very deep.
I think that's,
you need to get that written out as a quote.
A chess piece. I think just like a chess. Your
All right,
body.
everyone. Thanks so much for watching. Please let us know if you have any feedback, any questions. We'd be happy to continue to kind of facilitate conversation or answer questions. Thanks, everyone.